today's episode of Heard and Seen Around. I am Rajesh Karipurath. This is my take on macroeconomic and geoeconomic data points, which I find interesting. I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I enjoyed curating it. Cheers.
Due diligence, Googling something twice. Team player, someone who nods during meetings and regrets it afterward. TV anchors say, breaking news, so often it should really mean, we're still talking. I am an old man and have known a great many troubles, but most of them never happened. Mark Twain. The problem with political jokes is they get elected. Henry Kate 7.
If the 20th century ran on oil, the 21st is powered by rare earths, and China owns a refinery. With a staggering 270,000 tons of reserves, Beijing sits on nearly two-thirds of the world's supply of these metals that make everything from EV motors to fighter jet packs. The US comes a distant second at 45,000 tons, while Myanmar, Australia and Nigeria hover around the teens. India's reserves a modest 2,900 tons, enough to make headlines and not really hardware. India's credit card arena looks less like a financial market and more like a cricket scoreboard, and HDFC Bank is smashing centuries. With over 22% market share, it's the undisputed captain of team credit. SBI follows with a respectable 19%, proving that public sector banks can still play the digital game. ICICI and Axis trail close behind, holding 16% and 14% respectively. Kotak Mahindra, meanwhile, is batting at a modest 4%, but watch that space. They are known for sudden chases. And then there's the mysterious others, nearly a quarter of the market, a mix of fintechs, NBFCs, and smaller banks. India's money habits are the financial version of comfort food, safe, predictable, and mildly risk-averse. A hefty 44% of savings still sit snugly in bank deposits, while where they quietly lose the inflation battle but win the peace of mind war. Next up, life insurance funds grab 21%, showing that Indians love mixing protection with investment, even if returns are more emotional than financial. Mutual funds account for 11%, the new age flavor driven by SIPs and social media gurus. Then comes small savings, pension and PPF, together adding about 14%, while currency holdings, literally cash in hand, still takes up 10%, because old habits die very hard in 500 rupee notes. Behind every great innovation lies a deep, liquid capital market. The US didn't just invent the iPhone or the internet, it built the Nasdaq and the NYSE, where even loss-making visionaries find funding. That's America's invisible superpower. Capital access across credit and equity, and the oxygen for innovation. India has done remarkably well on the equity side, but our credit markets remain shallow, a gap that chokes startups before they scale. Meanwhile, China, blocked from US listings, is fast-tracking IPOs for AI and semiconductor firms at home, even those bleeding red ink, to keep its tech ambitions alive. If you want to know what India is building, just follow the money. And right now, it's racing down highways and railway tracks. Together, these two sectors account for nearly half of all central government capex, up from 20% in FY12. That's a massive shift towards hard infrastructure, logistics and mobility. Meanwhile, defense spending, once the overweight of capital allocation, has seen its share nearly halved, down to 17% in FY25 from 33% in FY19. It's not neglect, it's reprioritization. The government's bet that strong logistics and industrial capacity will fuel both growth and resilience. The US banking landscape looks less like a level playing field and more like a scene from Jurassic Park, with JPMorgan Chase towering over the rest at a massive $827 billion of market cap. That's more than Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley and Citi combined. Bank of America follows at $360 billion and Wells Fargo holds steady at $249 billion, showing that the traditional big banks still rule the financial jungle. But notice how the investment powerhouses like Goldman Sachs at $231 billion and Morgan Stanley at $242 billion have muscled into the same league as the deposit-heavy rivals. Below them, a long tail of regional and digital players from PNC to SoFi, trying to stay relevant in an age where scale, tech, and trust is everything. When it comes to stock portfolios, Warren Buffett still wears the crown with $257 billion in Berkshire Hathaway's public holdings. His portfolio reads like a who's who of American capitalism: Apple, Coke, Chevron, and Moody's, a mix of comfort food and compounders. Breathing down his neck, though, is Ken Fisher, managing a staggering $252 billion, spreading bets across tech titans like Meta, Apple, Alphabet, and financial giants like Goldman Sachs and JPMorgan. After the pandemic's tidal wave, global shipping has steadied, but it's not exactly cruising. In 2024, seaborne trade hit 12.7 billion tons, growing 2.2%, a notch above last decade's average. Yet far from the turbocharged 2000s when globalization was still sprinting. The interesting twist: ton miles, a measure of how far goods travel, are rising faster than the tonnage itself, suggesting that the trade routes are getting longer and supply chains more scattered. For 2025, UNCTAD expects growth to nearly stall at 0.5%, signaling that while ships are still moving, global trade's engine is idling.